Greetings fellow simmer and welcome to the Action Review with me, GripperSim. I know Microsoft 2020 has an update to the alpha this week, but I'm not doing a video on it as well, there's nothing to show you. But I thought some crazy madness was in order and I wanted to see what happens when one of your main landing gear will not extend for landing. Can I land the aircraft with just two wheels? Let's see in X-Plane 11. If you're impatient for Microsoft 2020 or thinking of getting into flight simming, stick around. I fired up X-Plane 11 and this is Weston Airport in Dublin. Yes, I've flown from here many times and it is standard scenery. However, I have used Ortho for XP. I'll put a link in the description below. Ortho for XP is satellite imagery and it's free. Now everything in the airport is in the right place, but it just looks a little bit different. And this is what we're going to be flying. This is the Duchess Model 76. This aircraft is modelled by Just Flight, one of the more popular add-on providers for most flight simulators, and I can confirm that they will be making models for Microsoft 2020. This aircraft has been out for quite some time, but still the detail and the aging in the aircraft is absolutely second to none. Even the circuit breakers work. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make procedural tutorials on this aircraft, as all steam gauge twins of this class are more or less the same. Why am I braking here for no apparent reason at all? I'm going to let you know towards the end. What's the purpose of the yellow lines on taxiways? Well, if you keep your nose wheel on the yellow line, you're guaranteed wing clearance from any other obstacles either side of the taxiway. How do you stay on the yellow line? Well, you straddle it, put it in between your legs and ride that line. It even works in flight simulators, see? I'm just stopping here to just wait for traffic and press some buttons. So the kind of thing I'd like to show you is the actual physical tutorials that we would teach commercial students on a twin. And I could do it in quite some detail. Here I'm just setting my VOR to a from flag from 320 from a VOR called Baldonnel. There goes my transponder, my strobes, my lights and my pitot heat. And now we can enter the runway, and from now on let's pretty much fly like we stole it. We've got a bit of a crosswind, looks like, from the right, and it's veering to slightly behind us actually at some times, but some aircraft you can have a 5 knot tailwind, but the demonstrated crosswind limit for this aircraft is 25 knots. I'm looking for 71 knots on rotation. I'm going to tap the brakes to stop the wheel spinning inside the wheel well on gear retraction. I do find the sounds on Just Flight aircraft are absolutely brilliant now. I'm flying a bit slow here, so I'm lowering the nose a little bit to catch up on that airspeed. Next, I'm going to take the flaps up and then after takeoff checks. Gears up, flaps up, T's and P's are in the green, landing line off, takeoff checks complete. I'm going to reduce the power now for climb speed, and what I'm looking for is about 100 knots, and I'm looking for 25 RPM and revolutions per minute, and I'm looking for 25 on the manifold pressure. So 25, and it appears I'm just about getting my 100 knots. And I'm just about to capture my QDR from Baldonnel VOR of 320 as I showed you earlier. Okay, I've taken away the control column there just so you can see everything, but the great thing about X-Plane is it has a great damage model. I can disable or damage any system of the aircraft, including the gear, and the left gear isn't going to come down today. Have a listen in the next clip of the Doppler effect of this aircraft as it goes off into the distance. Okay, I've lowered one stage of flaps and slowed down a little bit, and we're going to lower the gear. Have a look at this. Our left landing gear hasn't coming down. The most common cause I have found is that one of these lights, you can actually take these lights out and replace the old-fashioned fuse. Usually that's the problem. In this case, it's not the problem. The first time this happened to me was with my flight instructor at the end of my training, and we tried all the things you should try when you're flying a twin when the gear light won't come on. And on short final, I remember looking over at my instructor, and she was quite nervous. Well, she looked quite nervous, but in control, because she was very talented. And I just looked at her, put my seat back, my belt on, and gave her a funny look, and I said, if this doesn't go well, you're going to have a bad hair day. She only found it amusing when everything went well later that day. In fact, it was about a week. She wouldn't talk to me. Anyway, what else we checked? The circuit breakers. Here are the circuit breakers for the gear. Obviously not those. Of course, the next things we could try is recycling the gear. But I'm not going to show you that because it's going to bore you to tears. Some pilots do high G turns to force the gear down. Gravity might help you assist. And the most common fixture, the last hurdle you have, your last chance, is the emergency gear extension handle. It's either a pump or a gas bottle. In this aircraft, it's a gas bottle, and it's situated under the left seat, just by your feet. You pull up a bit of carpet, and there's a valve, and you pull it clockwise, and it forces gas and fluid into the gear system to force the gear down. Some twins have a manual emergency gear extension handle instead of a bottle, so it could be a pump, it could be a winder, and you need to know how many times you got to pump that for the gear to come down. Now, sometimes if I fly a new aircraft, I like to put it, if I have the opportunity when its annual comes in, to put it on the stand and actually test how many times I have to pump or wind it, or is it clockwise or anti-clockwise like this guy. I'm turning on to final now, but what's my plan? Well, effectively what I want to do is I want to land on the right wheel first, not the left, because there's no wheel there, and the wing will just hit the runway and we'll spin around. So what I want to do is land on the right wheel and then the nose wheel and keep the left wing up. So I'm going to put the aileron down on the left wing to keep the airflow positive over the left wing, therefore keeping the wing off the ground for as long as possible. Because if that wing hits the ground, I reckon when we're going too fast, the aircraft's going to slow and yaw to the left because the wing's on the ground, lots of drag, and we're going to spin over to the left, and that is not good. So the plan is to keep the left wing off the ground for as long as possible. Now, can I brake? No, because I'm only going to be able to brake in the right. Okay, so that's going to take me off the runway. So I'm not going to brake for ages, if at all. And let's see how this works. And if it goes well, I'm going to show you what happens when you do it wrong. And don't forget about that braking. Why did I brake like that earlier on during the video? I'm going to come up with that now shortly. I have full flaps down now, and I want to keep my speed at about no less than 85 knots, between 85 knots and 90 knots. I also have put down full flaps. Will that have an effect? Who knows, but I'm going to fly as slow over the ground as I possibly can. I can't find any sort of procedures for this kind of scenario, but if anybody knows of any, let me know in the comments below. I keep asking more experienced pilots than myself, and they keep telling me it's never going to happen. This is it, no need to go around, it's all looking good. Okay, I'm trying to keep the left wing off the ground for as long as possible. Left aileron down. And I'm going to fail at the left engine just to protect the engine so it doesn't spin into the ground. There it goes, the wing is now in contact with the runway, and I'm just dabbing right rudder and a little bit of right braking, otherwise the aircraft will yaw and spin off to the left. So it's just slowly dragging to a halt. And now I'm just thinking I didn't need to keep both engines going at all. I should have shut them both off at the same time. Well, look, you live and learn. I'm not going to do the whole shot over again. But let's have a look again from a different angle and see how that went. And then let's have a look and see what happens when you do it the wrong way. Yeah, that'll be interesting. This time I'm just going to land normally with no left gear and see what happens in the simulator. Oh, that's what the simulator says. Interesting. I wonder what would happen in real life. Well, I'm not going to find out, hopefully. Now, I did mention this braking business earlier on. Why did I dab the brakes while I was taxiing the aircraft? Well, I dabbed the brakes to test that the brakes were actually working. And are they working evenly on both sides? But in X-Plane 11, which is great, they have a great failure system. So if you go into flight failures, I can fail anything I want. So we're going to go into systems, landing gear, and as you can see here, I'm going to disable the left brakes. So I'm going to say they're failed. Just hit done. And let's see what happens if I land normally and just stupidly apply both brakes with even pressure. To combat this, just take your feet off the brakes and use opposite rudder to keep straight in the runway. Even push down on the nose wheel, because the nose wheel has steering as well. This is possibly a fault of brake calipers. Yes, they bleed. This happened to me. No worries, I kept the aircraft straight. For those of you who've hit the join button and have become a member of the channel, thank you very much for your support. And those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. And if you've watched this channel more than 6 times, you may as well subscribe and hit that bell for notifications every week. See you next week.